Great. Welcome everyone to another revision exercise that we are doing. Today, I am taking you through the difference between procurement and purchasing. In fact, let me say it this way. The way that I've structured it, I have said compare procurement with purchasing, all right? Compare procurement with purchasing. This is a typical exam question that would come. And so we are going to deal with it in an examination way. So as always, what I say to my students is that when you are given a question like this particular question is an essay type of question. You need to pay close attention to what the command word is and understand what this command word means. Essay type questions follow the following format. You have to have an introduction. Number two, you have to have the body of the question. And lastly, you must have a conclusion. So when you structure that or your response, you must have those three parts to the question, okay? Now, today, I just want to dive into what would constitute the body of the answer. In the future, I'll give you some exam techniques where I will share with you what you need to do an introduction for a question like this. So let's dive into it by starting with explaining what the command word is. Compare, all right? Now compare means assess one thing in relation to another thing so that differences or similarities can be seen clearly, so that you can pull out in your answer what differences there are or similarities that exist between those two concepts. In this case, we have been told to compare procurement with purchasing versus purchasing. All right. Now, some of you, if you were in procurement, you've been in procurement for a long time, there was a period where we were called purchasers, but we no longer called that because our function is a little bit different because we are considered as procurement practitioners. All right. So procurement starts from the point where a need is identified, it is defined, right through to the process until the goods are received and payment is made to the supplier, all right? That is typically the procurement process from beginning, identification or definition of need, right until the goods are received and payment is made. Now, I have summarized the phases in between, but it suffices to say that from identification of need, the next various phases is phases to do with sourcing of the market. Then once the market is sourced, you identify the supplier, then you will do contracting. After contracting, then you can issue an instruction to deliver, that is a purchase order. And then you can expedite the product, receive it, pay the supplier, and everybody goes back to their places happy. Okay, now that is the procurement process. Now, you will see here that procurement is wider and less limited term than purchasing is. You will see now when I explain to you what the purchasing process looks like. Procurement can be defined now as the process of obtaining goods or services in any way, okay, including purchasing, hiring, renting, leasing, and borrowing. All those activities are part of procurement, as long as you are obtaining goods and services. Now, so having explained what procurement is, let's look at purchasing and where it starts. Being a part of the procurement process, the purchasing process is a subsection within the procurement process. However, it can also stand on its own, okay? When it is within the procurement process, purchasing starts at the point where you issue a purchase order until the item is received and the supplier is paid. There are a number of organizations today that I know that have pulled out this portion of procurement and put it in a shared service. Why? Because it looks after issuing of purchase order, drawing down on existing contracts, and expediting the deliveries and ensuring that goods are received at the right time, at the right place, in the required quantity, and then the supplier is also paid. But you must understand that this process is also part of the procurement process. So purchasing is part of the procurement process, like we say. So procurement embraces a broader process than purchasing. Here, ladies and gentlemen, again, you need to remember that when you do comparison, every main paragraph should compare the two concepts you are talking about. In this case, we're comparing procurement and purchasing. So when we talk about procurement, we must talk about purchasing as well, all right? So a purchase is sometimes described in terms of purchase to pay cycle. Procurement sometimes is referred to as procure to pay, whereas procurement includes activities prior to and after purchasing, that is procure to pay. Procurement reflects a more proactive, relational, strategic, and integrated role. You can see that when we start from defining of needs, you are no longer a paper pusher or a purchase order pusher like we used to be in the past. Engineers would define the needs, they would specify technical specs, and the buyer would only get involved at the time. In fact, some engineers would go as far as identifying suppliers, and they will just pass on those suppliers to you as a buyer. But we are no longer like that. We are a profession that starts together with the end user at identification of need. We call it early involvement of buyer. So procurement has become proactive now. It is relational. Why? Because we build relationships internally and externally with our end users within the organization and also with the suppliers. It is strategic. It is integrated. Purchasing, on the other hand, is traditionally reactive. You react to the need. The company needs this. You look at, hey, do we have a contract in place? Yes, we do. Let's place an order on the existing contract. That is reactive. It is also tactical and non-relational. However, let me show you this last picture. When purchasing is done as part of the whole procurement process, supplier relationship management becomes the common activity across each stage. So you have the SRM right across the whole procurement phase. Unless your purchasing started at issuing of a PO, it's a low value item, it's below the threshold of even a request for quotation or a request for proposal, you just place a purchase order on the supplier, then there's usually no need for you to undertake supplier relationship management. All right, that's it. I hope you've learned something today, and all the best to you. Bye. Please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the notification button, and ensure that you get all the latest videos that we post on AMILA Training Center YouTube page. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.